Hi. If you recall, the previous lecture primarily focused on Business Concepts 1, popularly referred to as P1. Today's discussion will revolve around the content, the structure, the format of Business Concepts 2 or Paper 2. And I would like to, and I would try to, guide you through the technicalities which are more relevant to this data response based paper. So the format is quite different, obviously, as compared to the paper that you have attempted previously, P1. There'll be two passages, 30 marks each. Overall, the paper carries 60 marks, and we have 1 or 30 minutes to attempt the entire paper, inclusive of both the passages. Time is of the essence. Paper 2, I would say, is not that challenging, but the key factor that will play a decisive role in whether you give a mediocre performance here or you ace this paper is your ability to manage time. So just keep in mind, 45 minutes per passage, this is the time that you have. The moment your 46th minute starts, you have to be on passage number 2, number 1. Number 2, application is crucial here because this is a case study, a data response based paper. So you need to comprehend the information provided to us in the passage first. 5 minutes is the recommended time per passage. You must read the passage first. Don't panic. Don't just start attempting the question straight away. Read and understand the passage first. Concentrate. And then keep referring to the context. So for instance, there's so many past papers that we can possibly refer to. For instance, there was this paper in 24, Zo's Bags. So this is a partnership owned, managed by two siblings, and they are into customized bags which are sold online, and they're getting a good response from the customers. There's a definite increase in the market share, I think more than 50% over a short period of time. And they have decided to hire a couple of supervisors also. They have a workforce of approximately 15 individuals. And keeping in view the rapid increase in demand, they've decided to bring about some structural changes in their HRM. Okay. The same format obviously will be followed. The first question, it always says identify one feature, identify one factor. For instance, in this case, it is the GIT inventory management. If they want you to identify one feature of GIT inventory management, simply you just have to mention the term, the word, the phrase, and move on to the next question. You see, this is the only question in which properly worded sentences are not required. If it says one feature of GIT, you can just simply write maintaining a low level of stocks. That should be good enough for 1 mark. Had it been JIC, you could have written purchasing in bulk or maintaining a high level of stocks. Just mention the feature and move on to the second question. Time is of the essence, do not forget. The second question, which is a 3 marker, you're required to explain one particular factor, one particular term. In this, I believe it was the niche market. So if they want you to explain the term niche market, as usual, define the key term first, right? Niche market refers to a smaller proportion of the market which is relatively untapped, comprising of individuals who share a unique or uncommon characteristic. That's the technically correct, complete definition of niche market. But you know the rules. Always add something to the definition. Always add something to it. It could be an example, like luxury items, or a customized product, customized cakes. It could be something regarding the advantages with reference to niche marketing. For instance, it helps in enhancing the image of the organization because they're dealing in something exclusive, so on and so forth. Add something to the definition, move on to the next question. This is followed by another 3 marker, which is always a calculation. So these numericals, remember, in paper 2, they're not that challenging, but you have to memorize the formulas, we have the break-even point and the margin of safety. In this one also, you have to calculate the margin of safety. Then we have market share in dollars, in percentage, piece rates, time rates, simpler calculations, profit, revenue, variances, very commonly asked nowadays. Then they might want you to calculate the closing balance by referring to the cash flow forecast that's given, so on and so forth. Cost plus pricing is very, very important, very commonly asked. Simple formulas, memorize these, show the working and give the answer. So in this one, they want you to determine the margin of safety. So by referring to the appendix, the graph, and the information provided in the passage, it should not be difficult for us to calculate the margin of safety, but you must give the formula first, right? The current output minus the break-even output. You might be required to calculate the break-even output. In this case, if you just refer to the graph, the point where those two lines, total revenue, total cost, where they intersect, that's your break-even point, which happens to be 1,000 in this case. Very, very simple calculation. And if you go through the passage, it is categorically mentioned that the level of production is being maintained at 1,400 bags. So very simple calculation, but I would still suggest use a calculator just to make sure that we don't make any silly mistakes that we regret afterwards. So 1,400 minus 1,000, 400 bags would be the margin of safety. Simple calculations, go through the list of formulas. You have to score 6 out of 6 in these calculations because there's one numerical per passage. So 6 marks for numericals, and for your information, all these short questions and numericals combined, that's exactly 20 marks. So 20 out of 60 is guaranteed mathematical marking if you get the short questions right and the numericals. In P1, if you remember, it was 20 marks for the first section. So 40 out of 100, that's mathematical marking, easily manageable. And we should not miss out on even a single mark when it comes to these simple calculations. It can't be justified. Okay, so this is again followed by a 3-marker in which they might want you to explain another concept, another factor, advantage, etc. The same methodology is followed for all 3 markers. You define the key term and you move on to the explanation and add something to it. And then the second last and the last question, obviously, are these analysis and evaluation based questions, right? So as we've already discussed, there has to be an introductory paragraph. Always remember, there has to be an introductory paragraph whenever there's an 8-marker or a 12-marker, and there's a checklist. There are 3 boxes to be ticked. What is that checklist? A, always give the background. People who have been practicing past papers, I'm sure they have memorized this by now. Always give the background first. Always identify the problem. Always define the key term. Right? This is the methodology. This is the key that you have to remember and refer to. This is the key to success, basically, if you really want to do well in paper 2. And the minimum that you should score is 24 out of 30 per passage. You can certainly do better than this. You can score 26, 27, 28 out of 30 also. But managing 48, 49 out of 60 usually is a safe bet for an A. Right? So in these analysis-based questions, as you know, the key questions to be answered are why and how. Right? So obviously, if you have to discuss a question, let's suppose, based on inventory management or off-the-job training. So you just have to define the key term first, off-the-job training, for instance, the training services that are provided away from the workplace, right? And of course, like I said, give the background, identify the problem, refer to the passage. The problem could be, an HR-related issue that you have to identify from the passage. Right? It could be a financial crisis. It could be a poor style of management. It varies from case study to case study. Right? So basically, it is the second paragraph onwards that you have to discuss the concept in detail. For example, in off-the-job training, you will categorically identify the factors that contribute towards the importance of off-the-job training. For instance, if the workers are sent away from the workplace and they join a vocational center or training center where specialists are involved, all those skills that they're going to learn, they're going to use those skills to make a more valuable contribution towards the growth and quality, customer service, performance of those bags. Had this been carried out at the workplace, had this been an on-the-job training program, then obviously time would be wasted, the production process will be disrupted. That could be one point. Then obviously, training, off-the-job training or otherwise, is a non-financial motivator. It helps workers in learning new skills. It contributes towards their career growth also. So this is something which is in the best interest of the organizations, those bags, and the workers themselves also. So you must read the question carefully. Do they want you to discuss it with reference to the organization, the employers, or the employees, and then answer it accordingly, right? So in all the analysis-based questions, I mean, the main body, it comprises of 2 major paragraphs in which you can discuss those 2 advantages or those 2 drawbacks after the introductory paragraph. But as I explained in P1 also, it is advisable to have a concluding paragraph, a brief concluding paragraph, despite the fact it does not have any separate weightage. But it's still advisable, as I explained, it improves your presentation and adds a touch of quality to your answer, right? So basically, in all these analysis-based questions, the focus has to be on why and how.